G'day, it's Joe here again. In this series of tutorials I'm going to show you how to produce beautiful printable battle map tiles for use with your role-playing games. Battle map tiles are basically square tiles that you can rotate in any direction and connect up, sort of like a jigsaw puzzle, and then you can put, they basically create a large map that you can put your minis on. They really add a lot of colour and flavour into your role-playing games, and I love using them. Campaign Cartographer, and particularly Dungeon Designer 3, is a fantastic tool for making battle maps that are custom to your games. More importantly, you can actually create those battle map tiles in such a way that you can use them for multiple encounters, which saves a lot of work. I've even used this technique recently for a large commercial product, so this is not something which is just lightweight. You can actually get some real power, some really beautiful effects using some templates which I've come up with. Now, the folks over at Pro Fantasy have been very, very kind. They've actually taken some of the initial work I did and turned it into a proper, very easy to use template. And you can find this this template on the December version of the Pro Fantasy Campaign Cartographer Annual 2009. If you don't have access or you don't subscribe to the annual, you really should. If you're serious about Campaign Cartographer and mapping in general, and it's just a fantastic resource. I can't recommend it enough. Now let's get straight to it. What I'm going to do now is open up Campaign Cartographer. You can see a previous map here that I've been working on. It's a large city. To create a new battle map tile, you click on New Map. It's asking me if I want to save changes, and I'll say no. You select Dungeons, pick a predefined template, and it brings up all the various dungeon templates. Now, if you have subscribed to the annual and you have downloaded the appropriate December files, you'll see this one here, Annual Battle Tiles. That's the one you want. Click on it, and here's your base template. Right, let's now pull apart the actual template itself, because there's a lot in here. There's a lot of automation in here that we've built in. To start with, you want to use the Layers tool here to look at the guidelines. Click it, and it brings up your layers list. Now, those of you who are familiar with layers, and certainly if you're not, you should go back and look at the previous tutorials I've done on dungeon mapping. You'll see that a lot of these layers are fairly standard. You'll recognize them. But there's a whole bunch of new ones in here called guides. Since battle map tiles need to connect together, it's very important that doorways connect at the same place, or hallways connect at the same place. Rooms, or even parts of rooms, will be able to be fitted together neatly, and these guides allow you to do just that. They give you basically a set of markers to show you where doors, where hallways, where all of these components should fit together. By default, they're all hidden. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the base guides, and I'm going to turn on the, say, 10-foot connectors here. That means that my guides will show me how rooms would connect if there were 10-foot doors on them. Clicking on OK, what you can now see is a dotted line around here which shows me my base. Actually, I'll just zoom in on that, so it could be a little bit difficult to see on YouTube. There you go, there's the green dotted line along here. There's a mast area which shows me where my doors are meant to be, and so forth. And that is the absolute outer area where my floors can go. So basically, when I create my room, my doors, or my connection of the corridors, must be between these little red X points along here. If I was to want a room that was connected with, say, 15-foot doorways, so I've hidden that one. Oh, incidentally, I'll just zoom in here. This little control panel in here is often misunderstood. Clicking here, this checkbox here, means this is now the active selected layer. Putting an H, take it back down to map border, put an H in here and it hides that layer. Put an F in there and it fixes that layer. That means that anything on that layer cannot be edited. So I'm going to unhide, that's all we want to do in this case, unhide this 15-foot connectors. Click on OK. You can now see that the doorways here are actually not perfectly symmetrical. They're actually slightly off skew. If you rotate this tile 90 degrees, it still will line up with other floors, but it can't be perfectly symmetrical because with battle map tiles you want to make sure that your 5-foot grid spacing, 1 inch for every 5 foot, matches evenly with the corridors. Otherwise you're going to get people having to, your tile maps would have to have half-inch squares leading into other tiles, and things just get confusing. So that's why we do it this way. The other thing that you'll want to be aware of with our tiles is the sheets. We've created a whole bunch of very powerful effects on sheets. If you click on the sheet here, you'll see that you've got all your standard, but we've also added things such as floors for cave, sunken floors, raised floors, vegetation small and large for outdoors that puts shadows and so forth. All of these have been pre-calculated with great effects. So it's going to be very easy for you to create tiles quickly. Just click on OK. Right, that's a quick overview of the templates. I know that you're dying to create a room, so let's get straight to it now. I'm going to click on the map border and I'm going to turn off my 15-foot connectors. I'm going to turn on my 10-foot connectors and click on OK. It's asking me if I want to save. I'm going to go save now. I'm going to create a room which is basically identical to the sample that was provided by Profantasy, or very close to it. I'm going to go over to here and right click on my floor rule tool. I'm going to go down and I'm going to select a basic floor. Let's go for the grey flagstones. Now, floors should start outside of the wall area. There is a reason for this, and I'll get to that in a second, but you always start the floors in this masked area on the outside. So starting here, click, bring my floor in, past the doorway, onto the inside, and as you can see I'm just drawing the shape of the room, and where there's a corridor that connects to another tile, I'm extending outside of that masked area. Bingo, there's our doorway. Now if I refresh that, you can see that the masked area now crops the floor. The reason for this only becomes apparent when you, and we're just going to have to zoom in here, when you start to look at how the effects will be applied. I'm going to come over here and click on the effects sheets. I'm going to turn them on. By default, the template contains all the sheets that you need. Click on OK. Notice that the wall has a lovely shadowing internal glow effect, and the reason for that is it just looks really cool when combined with a wall. But of course, if you drew the floor along here, that means that a shadow would appear along this edge as well. So when you connected another tile in from this angle, you'd have basically a line of shadow between the two tiles. Obviously, corridors don't connect like that. So by extending the floor out into this masked area, we've been able to overcome that shadowing issue very, very successfully. I'm now going to expand to view the whole map again, and I will now turn off my guide. I don't need that guide anymore, so I'm going to turn, or hide rather, which might be a better terminology, hide the base guide and hide the 10-foot connector. Click on OK.